Welcome to Integrity Inspire, your daily dose of inspiration and motivation, featuring the bright and talented members of the Integrity Marketing Group family. Now, here's your host, Integrity co-founder and CEO, Brian W. Adams.
Hello, Integrity family. I'm so excited to be with you on this next edition of the Inspire podcast. Man, we've had so many young, inspiring leaders that have joined the Integrity family and heard so many inspiring stories, but this one is one that really and truly is going to inspire you and really think about how we can all serve more people. And today I'm joined by Marysa Maggio, who is president of Solidity Insurance Group, and this agency is based out of Massachusetts and is really focused on the life insurance market. And Marysa's story is one that will inspire all of us because it's really about how you can make a huge impact on those that you serve. And so I can't wait for us to jump into that because she's faced some unique challenges and overcome those in so many incredible ways. So Marysa, thanks so much for joining us today.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Man, we are excited. I love the green. Green is like making a comeback in a huge way. I wore a vest the other day. I wore this gray vest. I went over to some friend's house. The lady goes, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were this stylish. You've got a green vest on?" I was like, it's gray. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, it looked green when you walked in." She was like, "You need to get a green vest because that's the in-style color." So I need to jump into that, but you look awesome today.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Hey, so you've built an incredible business. It's been amazing to watch and to learn more about what you've been building, but you faced some family challenges when you were younger. And I love the Inspire podcast because we talk about how people have overcame. And people think, well, they look at you and go, "Man, she was always successful. And, life must have been easy." But for you, it was a real challenge. Tell us about growing up.
Yeah, so growing up, I grew up with a single mom. I have one sister who's near and dear to my heart. However, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, the type that at the time did not show up on a mammogram when I was 9 years old and my sister was 11. Now they had given her, 6 months to live. She went against that and got treatment, elsewhere and ended up living until I was 19 years old,
wow,
which I was
what a gift.
Very thankful for. However, we still, did lose mom. Throughout that, time, so to say, my father was incarcerated from me being 8 years old until I was 19. It just so that number 19, just sticks out to me. And upon my father coming out of prison, I never really held any resentment against my father in terms of going to prison. I more so, wanted to see I think that people can change. I think that people can, become a different version of themselves or a better version of themselves for the people around them and for themselves. So I had this, belief in my heart that when things, when he did come home, that things were going to be different. And, Brian, for the first month or two, things were kind of looking different, but of course that's a very big transition to say the absolute least, right? But 2 months to the day that my father actually was released from prison, my mom passed away. Now, during that kind of, time, it was really challenging because I was trying to see if I could trust my father, in a way. And also my sister was trying to see, can we trust, dad because mom's no longer here. With that being said, when my mom passed on, I always say it's like I lost my mom and my dad, because that was my parent, my mom is my parents. And out of all of that, I think that a lot of people could use that as an excuse, whether it's to stop pursuing something or stop pushing forward. But I always went back to really what my mom said to me. No matter how much, growing up, how much money my father had, my mom always worked full time and some. So she always made sure she was able to provide for us without any, resources, so to say, from my father. And I always went back to that mindset of she had to be so strong, not only to get through, her ex-husband being, incarcerated and having 2 children, but also being able to, work through that and actually go through it. So being able to stay strong and stay on the path that you were, directed to. So when she passed on, Brian, people were telling me take some time from school, take time off. And I really didn't want to do that. I just wanted to keep going forward as I think she would have wished.
Oh my gosh. First of all, I'm so sorry. To go through all that. So I've got a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old right now. And so thinking about you and your sister going through that, man, that had to be so tough. And your dad going to jail when you were 8 years old. Like, do you remember what it was like when that happened? I mean, because I think about this a lot with my kids. Like, what are they going to remember about like this phase of life? Do you remember like when your dad went to jail?
I do. I mean, I remember kind of leading up to it. And, in a way, my mom almost had to normalize it, I guess you could say, because it was federal. So, there was like different, police officers outside my home or things of that sort. So it just as a little kid, seeing that, my mom tried to normalize it as much as she could. But it was challenging to kind of look in hindsight and see like, okay, like, did I not, cross my T's and dot my I's, so to say, in terms of looking at what was going on. But what I really do think my mom kept a really strong path for me and my sister was like, his path is not your path. Like, I would go to school, I would get made fun of, like, oh, like your dad's in jail. And it's like, okay. So my mom's like,
everybody knew, huh?
yeah,
Oh,
it's like, it's a town where like when that time did come that he was actually arrested, I wasn't there for it, but at the same time, everybody knew it happened. So it's like I was in school, the next week getting made fun of, but like my mom showed me like, just shrug that off. Like that has nothing to do with you. And my number one line when I was like, a little kid was like, I'm not my dad. And, I think that sticks with me till this day, so.
Wow, that had to be, man, I just can't imagine that. And then to go through that, so you lost a parent effectively. When you were 8 years old and your sister was 10, you effectively lost your dad. And so then you go to, like dealing with that, dealing with the family, the family dynamics, dealing with school. I mean, life's hard and people make fun of you for a lot of things, but man, being, told that over and over. And I think that was great advice that your mom said is like, you're not your dad, right? And so that's really strong wisdom. And then things had to, I guess, start kind of getting a little bit more normal. And then your mom getting diagnosed. And then how did she explain what that was to you? Because that is really hard to explain as a kid. And also if she was only given 6 months to live. So, I mean, that trauma had to be just so real.
Absolutely. So she did have a plan, if she did pass on in that 6 months. When my mom had sat, my sister and I down and, she knew what the diagnosis and prognosis was, she was really strong-minded about it. She didn't let us know that, they gave her 6 months to live, but she did let us know that it was in a bad stage, but like mom's going to do everything she can to fight it and to be there for us. That was always her thing. Like, I want to be here like for you guys, like not for myself, like, but for you, for as the kids. So that's really what it looked like. I mean, and I'll never forget going back up to my room. And at the time, my room was kind of in a transition. It's just funny how you remember these small things. Yeah. And my bed was on the ground, like just my mattress. And I remember laying on that mattress, just like face down, just bawling, crying, because I didn't really know what it meant. Although she did her best to explain it to me, I don't know how much you can reach a 9-year-old, with that type of scenario. So I was nervous, but I was also hopeful because of the way that my mom reacted to the situation.
Yeah, that had to be so scary. How did you and your sister come together during that time? What was that like?
Yeah, so I think that, my sister and I, thankfully, we've always had a really close relationship, which has been amazing just because not every sister or brother is like that. But during that time, I think that we didn't even realize we were building on loyalty, trust, and also just the understanding of like what's happened, throughout our lives, right? So our relationship definitely grew a lot tighter, a lot more knit. And we were a lot more open and honest with each other, even just about like small things. You know, when you're a kid, you might be embarrassed about something, but we were just really like, there.
And how's that helped you like today? Does that help you with like relationships and other things? How's that impacted you today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really helped me be able to even just have harder conversations with people and being able to also like put judgment on the complete back burner and be able to step up, in a way that, said person, needs to, whether it's an agent, it's a client, it's a friend, it's a family member. But I know that I feel like I always look out for others more than I look out for myself. And, I've kind of lived by that to a point, but it's also to prove to other people, like, you can do whatever you want to do. And that's just really been my path.
Man, thank you for sharing that. There's I've been going through this leadership academy. So we created this amazing leadership academy at Integrity, and then kind of as a pursuit of becoming better, as well as I'm going through another one. It's an intensive one, man. It's just like 9 months intensive. And one of the things that you go through is you kind of assess your turning points, they call it, where you see like what impacted you, and then what was that kind of changed the trajectory of your life, and then how did you get impacted through that, and ultimately, how's that informed where you are today? I mean, you went through some significant turning points at such an early age that also really, I mean, it's one of those things you look back and go, man, that really sucked. That was hard. But it also, as you look back at it, you've got to also kind of look at it as like, what was that like as a 9-year-old kid? And then what has that done for me today? And I can look at like some of my turning points. I didn't have anything nearly as tough as what you're talking about. But some of those turning points, you look back and you thank God for them, because, man, because of this, it's really helped me become kind of who I am in so many different ways. And then for you, so you had these major turning points. And then when you're 19, I mean, when you're 19, you're just like finally getting that freedom of an adult, you go into college, and then you lost your mom. So you had that kind of big turning point. You had that big history of like, it had to be like, what's going to happen with mom? And then you get to the stage of normalcy and you're like, oh, mom's going to be okay, I assume.
Right.
And then you lose your mom and your dad comes out of prison. Man, that had to be so tough. So you were in college at that time, right?
Yes.
And you were, I know you were talking about you didn't really know what you wanted to do when you went to college. First of all, I didn't either. I think a lot of people have that story. But you're in college and then you're like dealing with tragedy and then this new reality, I guess, of living without your mom, living with your dad coming back in the picture. Right. Man, what was that like? That had to be so tough.
Yeah, it was definitely challenging. But like you said, there's a lot of turning points that really do shape who you are today. And through those challenging times, I wish my mom was here right now, but reality says she's not going to be. So really what I realized was, like, I don't want to say, thank God she passed on, because that's not true. That's not true. But at the same time, it really helped me build myself. I realized how dependent I was on my mom when she passed away. Yeah. It's silly things like, she would make my car payment and I would, give her the money. And I'm like, how do I make my car payment? I was 19. Being able to even like maneuver things of that sort, I think in that year that she passed on, I realized like, hey, like no one's coming to save you. Like this, like no one's coming to save you. Like you need to figure it out. So like, what do you want to do? And that's really how I feel like it's built my character of like, no matter what happens, there's a turning point and there's a challenge. You're going to face that challenge, struggle, dream, victory. And it's going to happen in sequences throughout your life. And just think it's your response to it and your reaction.
So you had to go through this moment of like losing your mom, going, man, nobody's going to save you. And then your dad's back around and then he lets you down. It's like, seriously, like nobody's here to save me. So I got to do it myself. I mean, that was a double lesson that, oh my gosh, that had to be tough.
Absolutely. And, I think what it really helped me realize too is like, again, I was so dependent on my mom. Like, Brian, I would call her like, I'm late to class. What do I do? Like, she's like, get to class. Like, you know what I mean? Like, please stop calling me at work, Yeah. But, I think it really allowed me to like become my own person and like open up as an adult and, again, make my own trajectory of where I'm going.
That's incredible. So you go to college, you like most of us didn't know what you wanted to do. How did you end up with the insurance business?
Yeah, so coming out of college, I was 21, 22 years old, right in that age group. And I actually came home, my sister and I, we lived together at the time. I was telling her like, Christina, I'm a loser. Like I graduated college, like 3 months ago, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life, so basically I'm a loser, right? So I go on Craigslist because that's what was hot at the time. I applied for a couple of jobs, one of which I didn't really know what it was. It sounded interesting though. Talked about leadership, growth, development. I was like, okay, these are all the things I've been trying to work on within myself. So I went to that interview. I didn't know it was for life insurance, but by the end of it, I was like, I know how important life insurance is because I had this experience with my mom, not too, long before that. So it really allowed me to see like, hey, this is a bigger opportunity and maybe you were brought into this room for a reason.
Yeah.
So I didn't even understand the commission aspect of it, to be honest.
How do I get paid?
Yeah, I was just like, there's this sheet that shows me I can make really good money, but outside of that, it was the willingness to care and to expose other people of like, hey, if we can avoid other children being in the same situation that my sister and I were, because my mom did have some life insurance, but she didn't have, enough to cover, for example, the house or, so we had, a little bit of a buffer, if you will, but nothing substantial that was going to keep a roof over our head or anything of that sort. So it really opened up my eyes to how important this industry was. So I was like, not only can I grow there, but I can help other people there.
Yeah, and I think taking that lesson, so you understand why insurance really matters in a big way. And then you also have that conviction, that ability to say like, no, seriously, like, we need to take care of this because this could happen. How's that really impacted like how your career's gone? Because I think that's another turning point that has probably really helped you go, I know the purpose of this. And it's not just about making money. It's more of the noble cause that we get to serve here.
Yeah, I think, being able to sit, in homes and now being over the phone and being able to share with families like what I actually went through. It's almost like if we never had a loss, we don't really know what it feels like, right? Or we never, had a big injury, we don't know what it feels like. So it's almost unrelatable and everybody's invincible until they're not, right?
Yeah.
So, with that, it's allowed me to share that story for a bigger impact and being able to build the value through an actual story that I lived through. So I think it's actually helped me serve, I would say, thousands more families, since I've been in the industry, just by being able to go through that experience and see how things actually play out.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you can say it with so much more confidence than somebody who's just there, and it gives you more purpose for what we do. So I started selling insurance in college. I remember I get recruited, and then one of my first homes I walk into, and I can't remember how old I was. I was in my 20s, and I was like early 20s. I'm like, I am so young like this. I'm talking like somebody's grandmother type of deal. And also, frankly, I didn't really know what I was doing. I got like horrible training. It's one of the reasons I think it's so important to invest in training, support, give people resources. One of the reasons we do a lot of things we do here is because I can take myself back to that, kid who's like in the home, like, I don't even know what to say. And it was really a challenge for me personally in those early appointments, effectively, to really even, say like why I'm here. And I remember I called my mom and was like, man, this sucks, dude. Like, I'm not good at this. I'm door knocking and I hate it. I was having to drive 52 miles one way to like go to my area. My AT&T plan back there, I don't know if you recall, but in the old days you'd have long distance plans. And I was like, I can't afford to like make phone calls and try to set appointments because the bills keep coming. And so I was like, I'll just drive there and door knock. And I was like, man, this sucks. And I remember my mom saying, I was kind of explaining to her, and she was like, you've got a gift because you're going to be able to go in there and you can represent their grandkids. And so you should just be like, listen, I know you've got grandkids, and let them tell you that, first of all, but and let them kind of think of me as like a grandkid and say like, this is really important, and this is why you really need this. For you, how did you get that confidence? Because you're super young, getting started in the industry at the ages we got started at is tough. And I'm sure you went through that too. Like, I'm like super young to be doing this, but how did you gain that confidence?
Yeah, so my first month in the business, Brian, like I was really stuck on that piece. I'm like, I'm going into people's this is like could be my grandmother's age or, my great uncle's age or, my, mom, dad, whatever it was. I just knew that they were older than me. Like, they were probably going to be a lot older than me, at least by a decade. And that intimidated me in the beginning. And then what I realized was pretty much exactly what you said. I had to put myself in a different seat, so to say. When I went into the home, if I was sitting with somebody in their 40s, I'm thinking about, hey, I'm talking to my uncle. How would I talk to my uncle? How would I explain to him the importance of this? And for me, that really changed everything. The first month, I couldn't help my own sister with an insurance policy, like truly. But you know,
I don't know if I could still help my own sister with it. I don't think she would listen to me, but.
And then, you know, my second month, I really focused on like matching and mirroring and just being a person, like going in there, take the sales hat off, go in there and care about people. And what I realized, like, I was like, wow, like I'm helping people, making sales and making money in a way that I didn't ever think I was going to be able to just a month prior.
Yeah.
So that belief in myself.
Yeah, look, I think it's important as you're thinking about like even setting the table is like saying, listen, we're on the same side of this table. I'm here to help you. I'm here to serve you. And that's one of the great things about our business is it's such a noble business. We actually get to serve people. And when you get to deliver that first claim check and you see like, man, we really helped them. Now back to like your mom's situation, there's never been an insurance claim check that was too big. Somebody said, you know what, that seems like too much money. And people need the money and they need more coverage, not less. And so that's such an important part about having that conviction and being able to say, listen, I want to be on the same side of the table. I want to help you and I want to, you know, make sure that we're taking care of that. I love that point about matching and mirroring. Explain that for a minute for the people who don't know what that means.
Yeah, so really just meaning like, you know, if I come into your home and you're, you know, really soft-spoken, I'm going to stay soft-spoken too.
Yeah.
You know, if I come into your home and you're really in my face and, you know, you're using your hands and things of that sort, I'm going to do the same thing. You know, I watched this video with maybe 10 minutes long of Tony Robbins at the time, but it was like a game changer for me. And it was on matching and mirroring. Like if somebody crosses their arms, you know, cross your arms because it's more relatable. You know, make sure you're not making awkward eye contact, but you're making eye contact. Tonality, if somebody's really loud, be loud with them. If they're not, be soft-spoken or you're going to appear intimidating. And I think realizing those basic key fundamentals not only helped me in the business, but it helped me in life. You know.
Why do you think that that's so important in sales?
I think it's because people have to not only, you know, trust you, but they have to like you and they have to also understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So sometimes you package it a little bit differently based off of the person you're talking to.
Man, listen, I think that sales is all about relationship building. And if you're there to serve somebody and you're there to build a relationship, the sell is the byproduct, right? It is. And that takes so much pressure off of you. That was the other thing for me. Same thing with, you know, partnerships, everything else is like, I honestly don't care. I'm here to build a relationship. And if I can help you, I want to help you. And if that means y'all joining us, then let's go. Like we can go further together. But I take that pressure off of everybody and say like, let's try to build relationships. And there is some truth to saying like, if somebody's being like very aggressive, like, you know, it's good to say like, hold on, like, let's talk about this. Right. I don't know why you're being aggressive about this, but you're going to need this. Or if they're really soft-spoken, you want to honor that so that you're not, you know, too in your face on that. And I know one of the things you've said about being successful is putting aside your ego and being willing to ask for help. And just like watching that Tony Robbins video to say like, I need some help on this. Can you tell us what that means to you on kind of checking your ego and saying like, man, I need some help?
Yeah, I mean, I think in any industry, you know, we can become like, oh, we've been in this industry for X amount of time, and we can almost feel embarrassed, like we don't want to ask for help. But at the end of the day, the times that I didn't ask for help, Brian, like those are the times I struggled most in my business. Yeah. And now the times that I did ask for help, it's like I realized that there was a lot more help that was willing or out there, so to say, than I was receiving, but it was because I wasn't reaching out.
Yeah.
So what I really made important for me was, hey, reach out with a point of what you want accomplished and how they can maybe help you, but make sure you apply it, right? I can't come to you with a problem and say, hey, how do I do this better in the home? You help me for 30 minutes or whatever it may be, and then I don't apply it. So it's like about applying and then being able to build off that relationship, because it's like, if you tell me to go do something and I go do it and I come back, and I'm like, okay, now what? It's like, you're going to give me that next step, so to say. So I think being able to put that ego to the side is so important in any industry, but especially here, you know, in a sales industry, just things are changing and evolving so fast. Like you have to be willing to reach out.
And it's interesting because the world says like, it's all about me. I got to be strong. I got to have the answers. What I've found is that when I'm truly humble about that and I truly say, look, I need some help. I'm struggling with kind of understanding what that meant or whatever it is. Most people, vast majority of people, genuinely are like, I want to help you. Like, I would love to help you. Now, you also got to, if it's good advice, some advice isn't good advice, but when it is good advice, when you also follow up on that and say, man, I'm going to do that, then it kind of unlocks where everybody's helping everybody, and it's amazing. And that's what this industry is all about, is when we can come alongside of each other. And that's one of the things we built here at Integrity, is this idea that if we all come together, check our ego at the door, we can all accomplish more. And we can all help each other, because we need your ideas, because you're going to be able to talk to the next generation better than I'm going to be able to talk to them. You're going to be able to find, the next, great leaders in this industry, because you're going to be closer to them. You're going to know, I assume you know what TikTok is, and you've been on TikTok and Instagram. I've honestly never been on TikTok. I have been on Instagram, kind of. I think I got like 2 followers, but you're like, that's where like the future generation is, man. Like, if you're not there, then you're not going to be successful. And so I think being able to, even from my perspective, saying like, hey, how can we use social media better? How can we make this relevant for the next generation? Because that's what it's all about. And so I think there's so many great life lessons. Now that you're coming to partner with Integrity, what are you most excited about?
I'm truly most excited just about the leadership and being able to essentially network with so many different individuals and different business models under kind of one industry, which is amazing. So I'm most excited, to be able to partner up and lock arms with everybody in terms of leadership, and also just getting different vantage points, so to say, that I haven't been able to receive throughout, my insurance career. So that's really what I'm most excited about. Never mind the tools, the technology, the systems, just thrilled.
Well, we're incredibly thrilled and honored to have you now as part of the Integrity family. And this has been one of those incredible inspires that has inspired me on so many different levels, especially as I think about having a 9-year-old and 11-year-old and thinking about, what are you impacting them for? Being able to check my ego at the door and ask for help, being able to think about how do you mirror and match. I mean, this has been a rich teaching in so many ways, and we're honored to be your partner and appreciate you for joining us.
Honored to be on today. Thank you so much for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're as excited as I am to have another amazing leader join the Integrity family. It's humbling to see how many people have said, listen, you're building something special here, and I want to be part of it. And then we also got to think about, how do we learn from that? I mean, the opportunities that we have to learn from each other are just immeasurable. I mean, there's so many different opportunities. And so I'm so excited about what we're building here at Integrity. And when I say we're just getting started, when you have great people like this join the Integrity family, I truly believe we're just getting started. I hope you all have an amazing week. I hope you've enjoyed this Inspire podcast and have been as inspired as I have been. And I can't wait to see what we can accomplish together. Thanks again, everybody. God bless you and take care.